Hello guys, in today's video we're going to continue the second part of chapter 1 of the Bleach light novel. We're going to start the video where the Shinigami reveal his name to Tosin and he's the one who killed Tosin's friend Kakyu. So what are we waiting for? Let's start the video. In a calm demeanor, the man spoke his name without hesitation. Certainly, my name is Tokinada Tsunayashiro Tokinada. I'm sorry, did you say Tsunayashiro-sama? At that point, Tosin's thought process came to an instant halt. A potent feeling of discomfort. After all, a familiar name had just been uttered from the mouth of the man that stood before him. No, but surely not. I must be mistaken. Observing the look on the face of Tosin, who had considered this and was about to question him a second time, the man shakes his head slightly. It's no misunderstanding, nor did you mishear me, Tosin Kaname-kun. Wah. You wouldn't recognize my face, of course, or even my voice for that matter. Phew, perhaps I could call it a fluke that I wasn't asked my name in the beginning. I don't much like the idea of adopting an alias. Huh, what are you saying? Tosin was bewildered, but his guts cried out, his instincts lined up two contradictory words. Kill. Escape. With that, intermingled feelings of hatred and fear began to course through the veins throughout his body. However, his vital reasoning power could not keep up with it, and Tosin found himself unable to perform either action. Confronted with this, the man informs his adversary of his own standpoint in a nonchalant manner. Let me say it once more. I, Tsunayashiro Tokinada, am the man who was your dear friend's husband. Rather, now that things have come to this pass, perhaps I should say that I am the cause of your dear friend's suffering. Well, I'm glad you won't be seeking revenge. It is a much more frightening prospect when, for instance, an ever-present grudge is borne against you by a destitute Rukongai dweller with nothing to lose, compared to noblemen who would consider their own self-preservation and think twice before bearing a grudge. The man who spoke shamelessly placed a hand on Tosin's cheek with an unwavering smile that remained on his face. At the same time, Tosin is struck by a chill that he's never experienced before now. His whole body was pierced with a heavy reiatsu that was wholly grim, unlike that which he had sensed from his dear friend. Violent impulses emanating from within pinned him down with brute force. The feeling of overwhelming fear even drowned out his instinctive screams of escape. It was my intention to kill you if you had answered my earlier question with I want to avenge Kakyo. It's unpleasant to talk with fools who don't understand her at all, you know. It may be a different story with fellow Shinigami, but it won't become an issue regardless of however many Rukongai dwellers I kill. He realized that the murderous intent that he sensed in the man's words earlier was now directed at himself, though it no longer made a difference either way. He couldn't even begin to comprehend the meaning behind the words his companion was uttering. He didn't want to. However, it was enough to cause Tosin's emotions to erupt and release his body from the fear that weighed so heavily on him. Right in front of him, there is a man who claims to be the cause of his dear friend's suffering. Whether it was a lie or the truth, it no longer mattered. Still, he could not allow a man who would point one to such ominous signs to talk of his dear friend. Negative sentiment, which had been locked away in the depths of his body until now, burst free and launched an attack towards Tsunayashiro Tokinada, the Shinigami before his eyes. A mute voice. With a roar that was practically beast-like, Tosin grabbed the man before him. But then. My wife's good friend, why are you so angry? Tosin's world is sent spinning around him. He was slammed against the ground from behind, rendering him immobile. As far as he could tell, the taste of blood was spreading through his mouth, and his limbs were paralyzed with sharp pain. A calm voice continues to resound above Tosin, who still tries to get up one way or another. Even my wife, even Kakyo would forgive me, wouldn't she? Why? You bastard. Tosin tries to shout towards the source of the voice, but the blood overflowing from his throat does not allow him to form his words properly. Didn't you just answer my earlier question? Honor her wishes, you said. If you care about my wife, then you would forgive me and forget about your hatred. You should live out your days within the peace that is preserved by us Shinigami, don't you think? My wife would have also wanted you to do so. Please understand, for her sake too. Pushing his sheathed Zanpakuto against the throat of Tosin, who was trying to get up, Tokinada forces Tosin back to the ground whilst crushing his throat. Of course, you probably have no power to take revenge from the very onset, for you cannot even use a single one of the Zankinsoki, 4 basic Shinigami combat techniques. Then, he called out to the guards who had gathered after hearing Tosin's shouts. Hey, you guys. Isn't it about time you got down to business? This Rukongai citizen tried to raise a hand to me. Won't you quickly kick him out of here for me? Why, yes, sir. The guards follow his instructions despite also feeling something inexplicably terrifying in the presence of this relative of the 5 great noble clans, who spoke this way with a smile still on his face. As he left Tosen's side in the form of changing places with them, Tokinada opens his mouth to speak, appearing as if he had remembered something. "Oh, and let me tell you, just so there's no misunderstanding. I have not lied to you at all. That a man like me was not adequately punished, it is truly a ridiculous world. Moreover, I think it's regrettable that I couldn't even protect Kakyo from the irrationalities of this world. I also understand that her wishes are a precious thing." Though his throat was crushed, Tosen still tries to yell something whilst scowling at Tokinada. Because even he who was supposed to be blind could see it clearly. Affixed to the face of the retreating Shinigami, a villainous smile filled with malice and pleasure. "Nevertheless, I simply detest those wishes to the point where it nauseates me." And, even deeper than his anger towards such a man, Tosen harbored a profound sense of despair towards a world that trampled on the hopes that his dear friend had embraced. That day, the stars she looked up at never shined down on her. It is she herself who is truly the light that illuminates the world, and even that is now lost for an eternity. The guards raised their staves overhead once more, above a Tosen who was enveloped in deep despair and anger. This time, there was no one there to stop it. Present time, a certain place in the Seireitei. There, a man wakes up. Oh my, that was a very nostalgic dream. The man who was outstretched atop an extravagant throne-like easy chair turned his attention to the scene of his dim surroundings. The small figure, who first met his eyes, raises their voice as their eyes sparkled brightly in excitement. "You're awake. Tokinada-sama. Ah yes, I had a nice dream. That's a promising start, huh? A dream? What kind of dream? Tokinada-sama." The man, Tsunayashiro Tokinada, who was asked this question by the voice of a child still young, recalls what he had dreamed of just now with a He then contorted his lips into a wicked smile as he answered back. "It's a dream that is both nostalgic and pleasant. I can still remember it clearly. The moment a person's heart fills with despair, it is truly a satisfying thing. No matter how many times I have savored it, I will never get tired of the moment that boundless hatred directed towards me is defeated crushingly. Even if it's inside a dream. Is that so? I do not quite understand, Tokinada-sama." "Ah, that's all right. You don't have to understand anything. You are still very young after all." Before Tokinada's line of sight was a child clad in black garments similar in style to a shakusho. The child did not bear a squat emblem or the like that would indicate their affiliation. This child is wrapped in an air that was somehow different to the ordinary inhabitants of Seoul society. If one was to apply an approximate age by the standards of a human from the human world, then the child would probably be around 15 years of age. It may safely be said that the child's features were plenty beautiful, but those features were androgynous, and it could not be determined from appearances whether the child's gender was male or female. Such was the outward appearance of the child. What was Hikone doing? "It's not like you were standing there upright until I got up, right?" Then, the child named Hikone replies with an equally childlike smile playing on its lips. "It's true I was. I did exactly what Tokinada-sama instructed me to do. Some people who were trying to kill Tokinada-sama showed up, so I made sure to immobilize them." Accordingly, Tokinada shifts his attention to the scene around him once again. A number of people clad in black clothing were collapsed and strewn about Hikone. Some individuals were convulsing after having the bones in their limbs completely fractured. Having judged from their attire that they were likely assassins recruited by the 4 great noble clans from the On Mitsukido, also known as Stealth Force, Tokinada slowly rises from his chair and lightly pats Hikone's head. "I see. Well done. I appreciate your efforts. Yes. Thank you very much. Tokinada-sama." Hikone's eyes were made to sparkle like a puppy's while Tokinada slowly approached the assassins. Standing in front of a person who still appears to be conscious, Tokinada then poses a question in a dispassionate tone. "Come now, do you not believe that your clients are all dead? Why are you trying to carry out this task so dutifully?" As Tokinada says so, he turns his eyes to glance at what was at his back. A long table was positioned there with several people aristocratic in appearance, seated in chairs. Given that they each had the same family crest as Tokinada sewn onto their clothes, it can be surmised that they are members of the Tsunayashiro clan. However, they did not stir in the slightest. Everyone had their throat or abdomen slit. It was a state of affairs in which one could clearly understand with a single glance that they were all dead. Assassinate Tsunayashiro Tokinada, huh? If one considers the general rule of thumb The client, like me, is a prominent figure among the Tsunayashiro clan. However, evidently they are all dead. If you had simply run away without doing anything, it would have been a good opportunity to take the advance payment free of charge, would it not? The assassin held his tongue. It's possible that he was making an effort of not leaking even a shred of information pertaining to himself or his associates, but judging from the fact that he did not commit suicide, it could be inferred that the assassin was still watching for an opportunity to kill Tokinada. Having analyzed that, Tokinada curls his lips up in seeming delight before slowly clapping both hands together from above and below in order to commend the assassin. Wonderful. As soon as the request is received, you intend to carry through with it till the bitter end, even if the client is dead. I must pay my heartfelt respects to that sort of disposition, because I could never do such a thing. In response to the assassin who was still glaring at him, Tokinada continued. Oh, as your reward, I'll tell you something good. Your client is still alive. What I mean is, your actions were no fool's errand. The assassin who remained collapsed knit his eyebrows together in unease. Although there was a middleman, it's likely they would have speculated that the request for the assassination of Tokinada had come from members of the same clan who had shunned him. Be that as it may, a short while ago Tokinada said, do you not believe that your clients are all dead? But now he was saying an entirely contradictory thing. Feeling a strange sense of discomfort at that, the assassin anticipated his opponent's next words whilst waiting for an opening to kill him. Then, Tokinada smiled as if soothing a child when he opened his mouth to speak. It's me. It's me that put in the request to you guys to have me killed. At the puzzlement of the assassin, Tokinada continued. I turned the tables on the assassins that brought their daggers to the throats of the Tsunayashiro clan, and I found that everyone was already dead. A story that will no doubt invoke sympathy, don't you agree? That's absurd. The assassin made a wry face in response to Tokinada, who announces that he had them dancing right into the palm of his hands. The person responsible for being the go-between is bound to be the man who was the same Tsunayashiro clan protege as usual. He wouldn't obey Tokinada, who is a cancerous growth as far as the family is concerned. But, as if mocking that speculation, Tokinada spoke. It's confusing, huh? Well, it makes no difference to me whether you choose to believe it or not. Because assassins like you often carry feelings of despair from the very beginning. It's more amusing to make people feel confusion than despair. What are you trying to? Tokinada sneers at the assassin who was straining his voice. Why do you think I'm talking so indiscreetly about such a thing? Even if it has already been established that none of the 12th Division's Rokurich, also known as spirit recording bugs, and such has been brought into this residence, don't you think it's foolish to speak of my own scheme? I think it is foolish. Tokinada places a foot on his opponent's fingers before trampling on them. Whilst listening to the sound of several bones breaking, Tokinada laughs gleefully, in ridicule, and in delight. However, I can't help it. This bad habit. Even though I run the risk of being heard by someone, I wanted to see it. The bewildered face of a proud assassin like yourself. That facial expression. Thoroughly, slowly, Tokinada tramples down on every bone in the man's body again and again, whilst continuing to laugh. Suddenly, that smile disappeared from his face, and as soon as it did, he calmly shook his head while muttering to himself. Come to think of it, if you truly were proud, you wouldn't even be the likes of an underling assassin of a nobleman now, would you? Releasing a small sigh, Tokinada drew out his zanpakuto from his waist. Looking at that scene, Hikone called out to Tokinada, while his eyes were made to sparkle as unchanged as before. That looks like fun. Tokinada-sama. Tokinada slowly stabs his zanpakuto into his opponent's spinal cord, at the same time he returned a smile to Hikone. Indeed, it is certainly fun. Trampling down on something is fun. I easily get weary, but my heart will desire it once again in an hour or so. After spending several hours finishing off each assassin, Tokinada wiped the blood off of his zanpakuto as he called out to Hikone. Now then, let's go, Hikone. I must inform the Seireitei that from today, I have become the head of the Tsunayashiro clan, replacing the grand elders who were killed by some ruffians. Yes. Tokinada-sama. Is it better for me to call you by the title of clan head from now on? Don't worry about it. You and I are friends, right? Just Tokinada is fine by me. That's really okay. Tokinada-sama. Among the dozen or so corpses that lay scattered around them, Hikone's face is made to light up with an innocent smile. Whilst gently brushing the androgynous child's head, Tokinada flashed a particularly wicked smile before making an assertion. Really, it's no problem. After all, Hikone will eventually become the sole king. Let's go with an equal relationship. And this is the end of chapter 1 of Bleach light novel. In the next video, we're going to see the chapter 2 of Can't Fear Your Own World. Have a good day and I'll see you on the next video.